Hey, I just wanted to come on and share some things that I realized today. And, I had counseling, and my counselor told me today, well, again, to write down all of my stuck points. And, I've been in counseling for a really long time, and I have pretty much I've narrowed down my stuck points, I thought. But, today when I sat down and worked through it again, I realized that there's a lot of things that are just patterns that keep coming up. And one of the things that she told me is that you can't change something, like you can't just pull something out and not put something new in its place. And I think that that was the part that I kept missing. Like I was taking out the things that I didn't like, right? And trying to just almost ignore them and not add back in the new things, the good things. And so today, as I sat there, it really started to bother me because I realized that there were so many things, and I may even kind of read and be extra vulnerable, but my stuck points. But the thing that I really realized is that all of these things, they come down to fear, the fear of what other people think, the fear that people will leave if they don't like me, or the fear that if I disappoint them, they will leave, or whatever. But it all comes back to being alone and being afraid that no one loves me, I guess. Anyway, so some of the things, and I think I will read them. What one of my biggest fears is literally what other people think of me. So when you hear these, I hope that you don't feel the way that I feel, but I feel sad for myself that these things are bothering me the way that they have been. So one of my fears, one of my stuck points is literally if I'm proud, people will think I'm stuck up. Now, this goes back to childhood, right? I remember my parents telling me, "You should not pat yourself on the back. You let other people do that for you," right? And so, like, to be proud of myself was not something that I ever, strived to be, right? I remember finishing my bachelor's and then my master's and not feeling proud of myself at all, just feeling like that was something I had to do. Not that I had to do it, but in that instance, in that moment, I had to for my family, and so it wasn't something I was proud of, it felt like something I had to do. Okay, the next one is if I ask for help, I'm not capable or I'm weak. That just sucks. That's not true, you know? If I'm confident, people will not like me. If I'm weak, people will leave. If I'm not in control, everything will fall apart. If I'm not perfect, I'll be embarrassed. If I'm embarrassed, people will make fun of me or laugh. If I mess up, people won't trust me. If I disappoint people, they'll leave or not like me. If I make someone feel bad by telling them how I feel, they'll leave. And the thoughts that came up after that were really more questions to ask myself. And one of those was, why do I care more about others than me? And the next one is, why are their feelings more important? And the thing that I realized is that's not how it is. Like, I do care about what other people think, but the thing that I'm realizing is it's not the most important thing. I am the most important thing in my world, right? Like, I am the person who will be there for me no matter what. I am the person who needs to validate me. I am the person who needs to love me. I am the person who needs to support me. And I need to stop looking outside of me for those things. And I've known that forever. I mean, I've heard people say forever and ever, you have to love yourself before others can love you and all these things, and you have to respect yourself before others will respect you. And like, I get it, right? I get what they're saying, but it just was stuck. Like, it just didn't all come together. It didn't all make sense to me, really. I mean, it did logically, but not like emotionally, I guess. And, the thing that's really coming up for me is like when I reframe all of these thoughts and I give myself the new thoughts and I like try to reprogram them in my brain, right? Like it feels so much better to realize that, you know what? It doesn't matter what other people think. And it feels so much better to realize that other people's stories, I mean, and this doesn't feel great, but to realize that other people's stories are kind of what's been holding me back and not completely, but somewhat. And You know, one of those things that came up for me regarding other people's stories, like I always was told that I was big boned, right? Or some variety of that sort of a comment. Um, and so I grew up believing that I was fat. I mean, basically, it was just like there were always little comments, little digs that were just like made me feel like I wasn't good enough, that I was too big, whatever. And it really shaped who I became. And it's only been within maybe the last month, month and a half that I've started to realize that, first of all, that that was someone else's story about me. And when I started to realize that that's not actually my story, I realized that that was not a problem I needed to hold on to anymore. And so I guess I am inviting you to look at things and ask yourself, what is it that you have accepted? What other people's stories, like who else's story have you accepted into your life? And who else's story have you made the truth in your world?